I think there is a lack of what I call self-observation. What I mean by self-observation is to be able to zoom out and take a look at what's really happening and to pause. We don't pause. We are constantly going. It is task to task to task, one thing to another to another. And this kind of roller coaster that we're on never grants us this opportunity to take a look and say, is this really what I want? Is this really what I'm good at? Is this really what I am here to do? We only have the short amount of time on this planet. And if we are not pausing to ask those hard questions, we are going to live a life that someone else authored for us.
Welcome to the Happy Engineer podcast, the place where we help engineers like you to build your career, balance your life, and be happy. I'm Zach White, former engineer turned lifestyle engineering coach, and your host for the journey to the career and life that you desire. Hey, I believe that you shouldn't have to sacrifice your life to reach your full potential at work. And what we're going to bring you in these conversations and interviews are the strategies, the tools, and the mindsets that are going to allow you to experience both success at work and success at home. Hey, we do the best we can to keep this free from advertisements. Of course, I can't control what YouTube may throw up, but do us a favor and share this podcast with anybody who you think may like it. And don't forget to click the bell and subscribe and get notifications to our YouTube channel and for upcoming releases of the Happy Engineer podcast. I would love your feedback, and even more than that, love your story. Share with us how these strategies and tools are working for you. Would love to be in touch with you. Connect with us on social media. Find me at Oasis of Courage on Instagram, Facebook, or Zach White on LinkedIn. It's an absolute pleasure to serve you. Now let's do this. All right, welcome back, happy engineers. It's absolutely a pleasure to be with you again, and you are in for a treat today. I'm with my new good buddy, Jay Abbasi, and Jay and I first met in real life not that long ago, just a couple of weeks ago in San Diego, California for an event called Impact Accelerator Live. Our first virtual meeting was online before that, as we're part of a mastermind of coaches together. But Jay and I got to meet and actually embrace like a real human hug for, well, I think it was my first hug with somebody in 18 months after the world we've been living in. But Jay, thanks so much for making time to be with us today. And it's so good to see you again, man.
Yeah, so good to see you. Lots of hugs. It was a lot of hugging and it felt great.
There was a lot of hugging. So Jay, just here we're talking about IAL, Impact Accelerator Live. And for the listener, they don't know what that is. Maybe describe the event from your perspective and, why you were there and what that meant for you and the work that you do.
Yeah, so the event consisted of like-minded coaches in a community looking to make a greater impact. And it was incredible, man. It was an incredible experience having the opportunity to really connect in person with people like you. And as soon as you and I started talking, we hit it off immediately. We connected right off the bat. And while there were so many tactical things that I took away from the time we had there, I feel the relationships were probably the most impactful and the most memorable for the people that I had a chance to really talk to and get to know and learn from. And in addition to that, there was so much discussed on mindset and the importance of mindset. And while I know this and I coach people on it daily, it made me feel like I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough for my own mindset and working through my own conditioning and the things that I default to that leave me in places of fear and not being as purpose driven. So while, yeah, there were some tactical business things I took away and I'm putting those into action. I have a huge list on my whiteboard, not too far from where I'm sitting. The mindset work and the relationships were the things that really stood out to me.
Jay, when you say, you know, mindset, not enough, there's more to learn, there's more to do. I connect to that 1000%. And for engineers listening, can you just describe sort of on the court in the day-to-day life for you, what are those practices, or what is it that has changed for you when you say, I want to go deeper with my mindset? What does that actually look like?
The way we all operate is according to our conditioning from childhood until right now. I like to think of it as this huge cause effect relationship that has been occurring since the day we were born, of the environment that we were in from very young, how we were raised, the school that we went to. And it has led to patterns where when we're faced with something that's uncomfortable, something that scares us, we default to a certain type of behavior. And so there needs to be some sort of pattern interrupt to that cause effect relationship to create new cause effect relationships. And so how do you interrupt that pattern? Well, the first thing I do regularly is I meditate every day as a way to bring myself to the present moment and not get caught up in that conditioning, not get in that spiral of overthinking and anxiety, which depletes my energy and it's not the best version of myself. The other things that I do throughout the day is take moments to recognize if I am falling into the common patterns that have hurt me in the past. When I'm doing a specific task, am I working through it to the end, or am I jumping from thing to thing? Right? Which is something my brain tends to do because it likes novelty, it likes shiny objects. So it goes for different things, right? So I have to constantly be reminding myself that the way I need to operate is focus on one task and get it done. And then the third thing is, what's the environment that I'm in and who am I
Hmm.
speaking with throughout the day to ensure that I keep my mindset in the right place and I stay purpose driven rather than in a state of fear or reaction. So I make sure that throughout the day, even if it's text messages, I'm reaching out to people that are on similar paths as I am, on similar journeys, so I can keep myself in the right state of mind.
Most of us hear the word environment and we think about the physical space that I'm in right now, which is absolutely part of it. I'm not sure everybody would include text messages and things as part of their environment. So, can you expand our thinking when you say environment and shaping that intentionally? How all can that show up? What does that mean for you?
I have an example because it happened yesterday with you. So I was going throughout my day, right? I was about to make lunch and you gave me a call. I called you back and we just started talking about the business, what we're going through. And just that conversation was uplifting for me. It changed my mental state to feel more motivated, more inspired, and feel like, hey, there's someone else who's doing this too in a similar space that I'm in. And he's after it. And it motivated me. It got me really pumped to be able to continue on my day and to succeed. And the result was I did deliver more in terms of success for the business later that day. You know, I had a few calls with some prospects, some people who wanted to enroll in the program, and we were able to really bring them on and support them and service them. If I don't have that environment, mental environment, right, that space to where I am constantly feeling that motivation, that inspiration, I can fall into feeling siloed, feeling alone, feeling like I'm trying to do this all by myself. And that pressure can affect my energy throughout the day.
Engineering leaders, especially, Jay, I have found under pressure, under stress, tend to pull into isolation more and more. If we had to paint with a broad brush, that's the behavior I see over and over again. So I just, as an encouragement to the leaders listening to this conversation, think about your environment in this broader context. How can you get into proximity to the people who are going to pull you forward? And taking back to IAL, that's that environment on steroids, right? It's just
Right.
this complete immersion into an electric environment of support and accountability and focus towards a common purpose and goal. It's part of why, I already see Jay as a great friend of mine, and we've only really spent a few hours together, but because of the energy behind that. So tell us then, you've mentioned coaching, and we heard it in the bio at the beginning of the episode here, Jay, but just for the engineer who's listening, like, tell us about the coaching you do and how you got into this work.
Well, I guess I'll start with how I got into it. I was working for Tesla for a number of years. And at Tesla, I did work in leadership development, sales coaching, training, and I spent a lot of time running the national training program where we would have to execute these greater coaching programs and these greater training programs from entry level up to, the VP level. And what I found was that a lot of the people of whom I was coaching, it was stress, anxiety, overwhelm, lack of clarity that they needed the most help with. And then when I left Tesla, it occurred to me that there are many people out there that can use that kind of help. They feel stuck. They're not clear as to how they're going to advance their careers. And of course, look, while we like to think of these work and life as separate things, you don't leave life to go to work and you don't leave work to go to life. It's all your life. So I've decided to then bring or enroll clients into a coaching program where we can gain that clarity for them, help them to take steps to be able to advance their life and their career and optimize their potential and make the greatest impact that they can make. Because we all have potential. Everybody has potential. And sometimes a coach, a guide, some customized support is going to help people to really make that great impact and unlock that potential. And so it was really my experience at Tesla that got me interested in being able to deliver this to corporate professionals.
So this is interesting. You're in what is now just looked at as like one of the premier growing and profitable organizations on the planet. How many years ago we might have thought, are they going to be around now or not? And Tesla's done some incredible things in terms of changing the industry. When you talk about coaching programs for entry level all the way through VP level, I'm really curious if you can tell us what is different about the way or how or what you're coaching between those extremes. When you're thinking about coaching somebody who's entry level at Tesla versus someone who's in the executive wing, so to speak, what is it that stands out to you as the same versus what's totally different?
What's the same is that everyone I find could use some help in gaining clarity on what it is that they really want and how to get there. I haven't had a single client tell me, oh, I know exactly clearly, I have my path written out, I know the direction that I'm going in, and I know how to do it. That is a common pattern. So that's one. The second one that is a common issue, and this is interesting, Zach, because I did not realize how prominent this was in people, regardless of their experience, which is everyone criticizes themselves quite a bit and judges themselves to a point where they are their worst enemy. This comes up with every one of my clients I've worked with from every level. Some people who have incredible success, people you would think, why would they ever think poorly of themselves, are feeling as though they are not worthy, feeling like they are not doing a good job, that they don't have the skills or they're not good enough. This is a common thread throughout everybody I've ever worked with. Varying degrees, of course, but it comes up. Now, those two things I think are common amongst all people that I've coached. Where it is a bit different is with the VP level, the leadership level, usually what's required is determining how to more effectively delegate their work and be able to take things off of their plate and to be able to stay in their creative zone. I find that comes up more with the people who have they're at the higher levels in the organization and they have a great deal more responsibility. It tends to, the delegating and saying no to things is something that comes up more often. Whereas with the entry level person, it is isolating what are the skills that they need to develop and strengthen to be able to get them to the next level. Those are some distinctions that come to mind.
With delegation, this is a topic that comes up with my engineering clients all the time. The first place it really manifests is when you land that first manager job. You've actually gotten out of IC focused work to where your ability to contribute is no longer the thing that defines success. And now you're a manager for the first time. What I've seen, Jay, and I want you to tell me if you've seen the same or how you would frame this. People look at delegation as this binary skill set. I've never been good at delegating and I developed that skill and now I know how to delegate. And it's kind of like I either can do it or I can't. Right. And what I've seen is actually like No, delegation is something you keep learning and improving and developing and taking deeper. And once you become an M2, you've got multiple layers under you, or if you get to this director or VP, enterprise level leadership, delegation takes on a whole new life and a whole new level. That's the kind of perspective I bring to that. But I'm curious for you, how would you describe that growth around delegation and what it really looks like?
I would describe it as a muscle that needs to be strengthened. Some people, maybe they feel, hey, I don't have that muscle just yet, but it doesn't mean that you can't strengthen it. It just means you have to do the work. And just like going to the gym and lifting weights, if you're trying to lift weights and you haven't done it in a while, it's going to hurt at first. It's going to hurt to have to let go of the things that you are scared to let go of. It's going to hurt to trust and empower others to do things that maybe in the past you've tried to always perfect. But to be a great leader, you need to do that. It is not possible. I've worked at Tesla. You think Elon Musk is doing all the work, right? Elon has found the greatest minds he can with SpaceX, with Tesla, and the other projects that he has to be able to take responsibility and ownership of the work. And his job is to stay in his creative zone because he is an engineer mind. He doesn't like to do the CEO type work. He's said that many times. He wants to be in his creative space. So he's delegated effectively. Now, he had to learn that skill. He had to strengthen that muscle. So I am in a complete agreement with you. It is not binary, and it is something that can be learned and needs to be strengthened over time.
I've never connected delegation to the muscle metaphor. And I'm curious, Jay, do you then think delegation skills atrophy? If you stop going to the gym, you lose your muscle mass, you get out of shape. Is it the same with that skill of delegation, where if you don't keep sharpening, keep using, keep improving, that it atrophies?
Absolutely. And especially with someone with like an engineering mind, an engineering background, because your default is most likely to be, I'm in isolation, I do things all by myself and I can get it all done. And going back into those old patterns is a very easy thing to do if you're not being consistent with your own growth and your ability to delegate.
I love this. So for the engineer listening, it's not a one training, one, corporate sponsored leadership training where you learn how to delegate and here's the 5 steps to great delegation and now you're done. Like, not it. You've got to go to the gym of leadership and delegation every single day and keep flexing those muscles. So I love that. Jay, just tell us a little bit about how you became the coach and the compassionate, loving leader that you are. I look at the sales trainers and people I've met in my lifetime, and I look at Jay Abbasi, like there's more to the story here in terms of how you became this amazing coach and this amazing leader. So tell us a little bit about your journey and those moments of life that made you who you are today.
I had a change in my life where the trajectory of my life and career was altered due to personal loss. So a little over 7 years ago, my father passed away suddenly, and it wasn't that he was sick. It was just wake up one morning, he had a heart attack, and he was gone. And so when that happened, it led me down a path to figure out, one, how do I manage this type of grief where it was so sudden, it was so unexpected. And I know many people have experienced this kind of loss. And the other thing that was staring me right in the face was my mortality. Life is short, right? That's a cliche, but it's true. And it was staring at me in the face that life is short. My dad went to dinner the night before with my mom, and then that morning it was over. So it changed the way I saw my life and how I had been letting other people author my life. And I was living according to the design that someone else was making. And I didn't want to live that kind of life anymore. And that was a time where I was working for a finance company that, while I liked the people there, I didn't feel that it was aligned with really the impact I wanted to make. Even just personally, I was in a marriage that ended up not working out, but I was unhappy there. I was in an immense amount of debt. Things weren't in a good place, but I worked through all of that because I got help. I got coaching. I went to seminars. I read books. I worked on myself. And in working on myself, not only did I learn how to manage my own overthinking mind, my own emotions, and the things that held me back from my own development, I saw results in my career. I joined this company named Solar City. It was acquired by Tesla. I started entry level. Within 4 years, I was running the national training program. And while, yeah, there are some tactical things that I did, I know for sure that what really brought me my success was the work that I did on myself. That is why I think the coaching program that we provide gets the kind of results it gets, because we provide that real transformative work.
Jay, you said something I want to come back to that I think is so important, that the tragedy and the loss, and I'm so sorry, man, like incredibly hard moment. But before that, other people or other sources outside yourself were authoring your life. How would you articulate the story? What was the story that had been authored for you before that moment?
It was, you go to college, you get into a student loan debt, you get married young, because I come from a traditional Middle Eastern family where that was the idea: get married young, have kids, have a 9 to 5, and you'll work, and that'll be it, right? And you hope that you'll get raises and promotions, and you hope that things will work out for you, and just live in debt for much of your life, and hope that you can retire by the age of 65. So it was a story where there was a lot of dependent on situations that if they would just work out for me, rather than me being proactive and manifesting and designing the life and career that I really want for myself. And so that was the big shift. It was from being reactive and allowing life to just take me for a ride to being proactive and deciding what I truly want for myself. And I'm blessed to say that the things that I have put out there since that time, since that tragedy, have come to fruition.
Why do you think it's so hard for people to discern whether they're living a life that was authored by the world around them or their parents or something else versus this authenticity that you're describing on the other side of tragedy? Does it take that rock bottom or grieving moment to wake someone up, or why is it so hard to discern that in our lives? Do you have any thoughts around that?
I do. I think first and foremost, yeah, sometimes it does require a rock bottom moment. Not every time, but that's definitely how it was for me. And I know many people who have similar stories. I think there is a lack of what I call self-observation. Sometimes the word self-awareness is used, but what I mean by self-observation is to be able to zoom out and take a look at what's really happening and to pause. We don't pause. We are constantly going. It is task to task to task, one thing to another to another. And this kind of roller coaster that we're on never grants us this opportunity to take a look and say, is this really what I want? Is this really what I'm good at? Is this really what I am here to do? We only have this short amount of time on this planet. And if we are not pausing to ask those hard questions, we are going to live a life that someone else authored for us. So does it require a rock bottom moment? No, it can happen if you take that time to pause, reflect, build up your self-observation. And that's why I'm such a proponent of meditation and the value, the benefits that it's given to me and the people that I've coached, because it gives you that opportunity to do that introspective work, to pause, and to then be able to design your future.
So if you go back into those days and moments after waking up and dad is gone, there's a lot of cliche things talked about with, live like there's no tomorrow. And if you changed your mindset to think that way, you do all these different things. But you lived it, where one moment of life, everything was a certain story, and literally the next moment, it's a whole new story. Do you remember, maybe after sort of the reeling from the news was over, any of those first things that you just decided, like, this will change, or this is what I must do in my life as a result of this wake-up call? What were those first things that shifted for you?
The first thing that really shifted for me was the importance of spending time with my family. Was by far the first thing. Just my daughter was 2 at the time, and just holding on to her a little bit tighter and savoring every one of those moments.
Yes.
That's the first thing. And being there for my mother and being there for my sisters and making sure that weeks didn't go by where I didn't see them and pick up the phone and make those phone calls. Those are the things that initially really stuck out to me. And then after, a few days of just really making that shift in how I spend my time, I then realized that now is the time. There is no other time but now. Oh, yes. Are we most likely going to live to tomorrow? Sure. Yes, most likely we will. Right. And at the same time, even tomorrow, when you do it, it's still going to be now. It's going to be like now is the only time where you can make the difference, where you can do the work that you want to do and get the results that you want to get in your life. So I realized I have to stop procrastinating. All the things that I said I was going to do and all these dreams that I had were things that I thought I'll get to one day, or they're going to show up for me when the time is right. And I realized that that is not the right way to live. If I want something, I need to take action consistently to get those kind of outcomes.
Jay, I really appreciate your candor on the family piece, and it's the perfect time for Zach White to hear you say that. And I'll tell you my short story here. I have a trip to Arkansas planned next week to visit my whole family. So my mom and my stepdad and both my sisters and their husbands and all the nieces and nephews, all going to be in one place, which with COVID has not happened a single time. And even before would, if we were fortunate, happen once a year, maybe twice on the rare occasion. And in the business right now here at Owaco, there's a lot going on. And being an entrepreneur, as you know, is always full of surprises and adventure. And I was very close to not going on the trip because there's work to do. There's clients to serve. There's some gaps in the business right now that I'm closing. And my story that I've lived into often is that the way to solve those problems is to work harder, work longer. We already talked about delegation, and it's great for the coach to be coached on this conversation. And I did make the decision. I booked my hotel and I told my wife, like, we're going. This is a priority. If I'm going to tell my clients that this is how we do things, I got to live it, right? I want to live it out. And so I'm so glad that I'm going, and it is a priority and it's precious and it's special. But I say this so for the engineering leaders listening, just to recognize it is so easy to say or to know, air quotes for the folks watching this on YouTube see it, but what is the thing you value, the thing you want, etc. But it exists only in that thinking part of your brain or on a great spreadsheet somewhere. In the arena of your life and in the true core and where the emotion and the challenge and the fear and all the crap of life can actually hit, it's like it isn't true at all. For me to even have the thought that I would skip the once in 2 years trip to go see these people who could wake up tomorrow and not be with me. Like, would I be happy that I spent those extra hours at Owaco? Absolutely not. So anyway, Jay, thanks for just making that real for us. And I feel really fortunate that I made the right decision.
Oh, you definitely made the right decision, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. One of the themes that has come up a couple of times here, I wanted to pull this thread more because we're talking for the sake of the engineering leader listening here, how your journey may support them and theirs. And you talked through this idea of learning how to get past this overthinking part of yourself. And I love this idea of self-observation. I'm going to use that phrase as well as it's another way to maybe shift your perspective about what we normally would consider awareness, but a self-observation. And the scientist and the engineer in us kind of like observing that we're good at that. But tell us more about your journey through overthinking and stress management and that whole space. What's been the secret to success for you, and what insights do you have for engineers listening?
I have a similar response to that word. It's not one, I can't take credit for coming up with that phrase. I can't take credit for it. But when I heard it, it really resonated with me to be able to, in a way, observe yourself as if you are observing someone else. And it sounds a little funny, but it can be done. We can watch ourselves. And so for me, the way this unfolded was to daily take time to pay attention to the way I was thinking, to pay attention to how I was responding to situations. I often, with my clients, use the terms take inventory. So I constantly would take inventory throughout the day and notice, look at that. Look at how I'm responding to this situation. I get this email, look at how I felt triggered. Look at how my body responded. Where are the feelings in my body that are tense right now? Where is it tense in my body? And this kind of study is like very much like a scientist that's studying a subject, something that it is trying to gather data from. And so what I found in this process of doing it, Zach, is shedding the light of awareness on oneself is the way in which you can free yourself from the patterns that you often go down. If you aren't aware of something that's happening, how can you fix it?
Mm-hmm.
You need to be aware of it first. So practically what that looks like is through a meditative practice. Some people prefer yoga, some people going out for walks, but it's some sort of activity or time that you're allotting to not be caught up in your thinking and your planning and what happened before and what's going to happen in the future, to be here and now, to be present, and to notice what's happening in your mind and in your body, to pay attention. That's a simple but difficult thing for most people. It's not overly complicated. It's quite simple, but it feels difficult for most people because it's not natural. The natural thing to do is let my thoughts run and I go after them. I'm just chasing my thought one after another, and reacting to the feelings that come up naturally.
I see engineers often seek to solve the problem of overthinking with thinking. And one of the things you said that I just want you to unpack a little more, it's not just observing the thoughts, but also you said your mind and your body. What's happening in the feeling part of who I am as well. And this idea of presence, like those two things both jumped out at me as like, yes, that's where I see us missing the mark as technical, analytical, engineering minded folks is we want to put our thinking into the past and the future, and we want to solve thinking with thinking. And this whole idea of checking in with my body is really a foreign concept. Why would I do that? Or what does that even mean? Can you just take it one step further? If somebody's never really considered that, what does that look like? Or how do you begin getting more present and more into that feeling part of what you're saying?
Sure. So I'm going to reference what was covered in that workshop that we were at and at IAL. It stood out to me, and I knew much of the research, but I'll bring it here because I think it's helpful, which is that over 95% of our behaviors, our habits, are coming from the subconscious mind. So that which you are not conscious of. And as was covered in the conference, the language of the subconscious mind, our feelings, our emotions, right? Emotions is a better word because feelings come up consciously. Emotions are coming up without us being conscious of it. So that means that you are being led by your emotions, whether you know it or not. So I'm going to say that again. You are being led by your emotions, whether you are conscious of it or not, according to what the research and the science has proven from their studies on human behavior. So when you are only using your thinking mind to try to fix your overthinking, you're taking what is your 5% capacity to try to fix 100% of your behavior. Therefore, the need is there to be able to go into the emotion, right? And to have a bit more of consciousness brought and awareness brought into how you are feeling and to work through those feelings. So you are not at the mercy of the subconscious mind, not at the mercy of what those emotions bring up to you. Now, for you to be able to tap into that, you have to be present. You can't be, your attention can't be caught into the past or the future. How can you deal with what's happening now when your mind is dealing with what happened before or what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
You have to tame what's oftentimes referenced as the monkey mind, right?
Yeah.
You have to tame it to be able to come here and now, notice what's happening, and be able to work through it and detach from the natural emotions that are arising so that you can make better decisions and that you can make decisions in the face of difficult emotions, whether that be stress, anxiety, fear, whatever it is.
It's really well said. And I want to repeat this key point because engineers love the numbers. This is something to ponder, engineering leader listening to this. Take this home. All right. 95% of the computing power of this machine between your ears, you do not have conscious access to. Meaning, no matter how hard you think about it, it's the thinking part is the 5%. Knowing that the power of that machine is happening in the subconscious, the unconscious. And the language and the energy of that is driven in the emotion, in your emotions. You are solving 100% of the problem with 5% of the computing power.
Exactly.
Wow. Like that makes it so simple to understand why this matters. And I'll just say bluntly, coming from the place of having no idea what we are talking about right now at one time as an engineer, it isn't going to make sense initially. I just remember the first time my coach took me into the body and we had this conversation around emotion, energy in motion in my physical body. And it's like, what is this? But I'll tell you, it's absolutely worth digging into for all the reasons Jay just said. So Jay, if you were going to give one tip on a practice or an exercise to begin for someone who's listening and they want to play with this or something they could do on their own to experiment, would anything pop in that they might try?
Yeah, a simple breathing exercise is helpful to be able to tame a very overactive mind. In today's world, we are addicted to thinking. So what I encourage as a practice is to sit comfortably, no need for any crazy postures. Just sit comfortably in a chair. It could be 5 minutes, maybe even less. It could be 2 minutes. And just sit there and observe the breath in, the inhale, observe the exhale, and then count 1 without saying it out loud. So in, out, 1, in, out, 2. Now notice your mind will go away. It will start thinking, is this working? Or what do I have to do today? Or what am I going to have for lunch? That's what's going to happen. Right? That's okay. Don't get mad at yourself. Don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Instead, bring your attention back to, okay, in, out, 2, in, out, 3. Get to 10. When you get to 10, bring it back to 1 and go again until your timer is up for however long you want to do this. But as a way to start, it's a very healthy and simple, but it will be difficult at first, but it's a simple practice that will get you started in being able to tame your monkey mind and be more present.
I love it. I love it. And what I love about it is that as an engineer, if I put myself back into that lens of my life, Jay, I hear you. I understand that exercise. To your point, it's very simple. I can go do it. But I immediately want to sort of refute, like, well, but what do you talk about? How is that going to do anything to help me in these areas of my life? I cannot see the connection between what you just said and transformation in the areas that we discussed on this call. And that's what makes it so beautiful to me is like, engineer, you've got to trust this process and this journey. And this is just step 1, to Jay's point, tip of the iceberg. There's way more to this than we could cover today, but I really appreciate that. And I'm going to do that exercise after our call today. That sounds like a perfect place for me to go. So Jay, we got so much I'd love to ask you, but just in respect of time and to let you get back to life and helping your clients with everything you do, I've got one more question I always end with. And I really believe great engineering has in common with great coaching that the questions we ask lead and answers follow. And we want to be really intentional to ask ourselves the right questions and the best questions to get what we want out of life. And so if the engineering leader listening to this conversation wants to be happy and fulfilled, they want to achieve success, what would be the best question that you would lead them with today?
I would give them a question to ask themselves. And that is, with everything that you're doing, ask yourself, does this serve me? So rather than me asking the question, I would turn it to the engineer, the engineering leader, and I would say, when you go throughout your day, ask yourself, does this serve me?
Love it. So powerful. does this serve me? Take that and meditate on it, engineers. See where that takes you. And Jay, I have a feeling many of them are going to want to get more from you along this journey. So would you be so kind, just tell us, I know the work you do is amazing and your clients get incredible results. And if the engineer listening here may want to reach out to you, or they know somebody who would love to get connected with you for that kind of support and coaching, tell us about your business. How can people find you and connect with you? And where should they go?
The best place to find me is LinkedIn. I'm quite active on there, as you know, Zach. I see on there too. And find me on LinkedIn. That's the best way. And feel free to shoot me a connection request. That's always one way. Or my website, jayabbasi.me, has some more information about my story and the type of programs that we offer. I would say that's the best way, either LinkedIn or my website.
I absolutely encourage everyone listening to go connect with Jay and follow him on LinkedIn. His content is great, but also to really consider reaching out to him and asking for support. He's an incredible coach. I can't say enough great things about Jay and what he's doing and the impact he's having in people's lives through the work he does. So take action on that. And Jay, thanks again for making time to be with us today and sharing your wisdom and really very vulnerable about your life story. And I know it's going to have a huge impact. Just tremendous value for our engineers listening. So thanks again, man.
Oh, of course, man. Thank you for having me, brother.
Hello, my friend. Zach White here again. And I wanted to let you know that's all we've got for this episode of the Happy Engineer podcast. Thank you so much for investing your time with me today. It is an absolute pleasure to be able to bring you this content. Just as a reminder, it would be amazing if you would subscribe and share this episode with any other engineers you know who may benefit from this. And if you're like me, I hope that you'll take some notes and, more importantly, take action. In our audio version of the podcast on Apple Podcasts and any place that you go to find podcasts, there's a little more content from me about this episode in the debrief. If you really want to hear about how to put this into action, I'd encourage you to go grab that. But thank you for joining us for the video version of our interview today. And again, can't thank you enough for helping us to get the word out about the Happy Engineer podcast and what we're doing. If there's any way we can serve you, would love to do that. Go find us at oasisofcourage.com or reach out to me on social media at Oasis of Courage. And don't forget again to subscribe and click the bell to have notifications of upcoming releases of new episodes of the podcast. As always, I want to leave you with this. If you stay in your comfort zone, you're not going to grow. So let's crush comfort, create courage, and let's do this.